Hello, everybody, and welcome to a session on pimping up your LinkedIn profile. My name is Frank Saunders, and I'm the CEO of Salesforce. So before we're going to dive in, we will wait for a bunch of people to tune in across YouTube, X, and also LinkedIn. So if you're tuning in from any of these platforms, feel free just to say where you're from, and so what you do in your business, or whatever the country is, and what is that you do. So you're head of sales, SDR, agency owner, whatever that is, so giving you a good understanding in terms of who is tuning in. And then based on that, I may provide, some of the better bits in terms of optimizing your profile. So we're going to start off in a minute or two. But yeah, just feel free just to kind of drop on LinkedIn or YouTube or X, wherever you're tuning in from, where you're from, what is that you do, and maybe a particular challenge that you have with LinkedIn, and then we'll kick off with things. So let me just check if we're live. I think we should be rocking and rolling, and yeah, I think we are. So yeah, hello Gonzalo, how's it going? So yeah, people are tuning in already. So we're just waiting for another minute or two. But yeah, feel free to say where you're from, what you do, and any particular challenge you have with your LinkedIn profile, or how to get more bacon from your profiles. And then we're going to kick off just in a bit. So it kind of gives me a better context on how can I help you guys to optimize kind of sort of all things to have a very good, year ahead. And yeah, so just waiting for a bit longer. We have about a bunch of people tuning in. So yeah, so this session is naturally designed, for all folks out there, that specifically probably our founders or go-to-market folks, etc. Hello, Andrew, doing very well. But yeah, we're gonna kick off in a minute. So just as I said, so feel free just to say where you're from, what is it that you do right now, and then we'll kick off things. Happy New Year. So yeah, a lot of people are tuning in, and we're gonna kick off in a minute or so. So we won't wait for too long. If somebody's asking whether this session is recorded or not, so there are some people asking already. This session is recorded and will be available on YouTube, and then I'll follow up as well over the next week or so, so you may get a note on that. But the reason why you should stay live is you can ask a bunch of questions in terms of kind of getting your profile ready. All right, so let's kick off. So there are no slides. There are no slides in this session. We are diving right into LinkedIn profile optimization. So we're just going to be looking just at that. So and actually, I'm going to use my profile as an example profile, right? And what to do, maybe what not to do, etc. This is not to say that this profile is the best profile or something, but this is naturally to give you some guidance in terms of what matters, what doesn't matter. So what you're seeing in front of you essentially is what's called above defaults. Essentially, you are entering a profile of a particular individual, and typically this is where about 80 to 90% of the traffic sits. So this is what matters the most. This thing at the top. Whatever is down below gets, less than 20% of the total traffic. So this is why whatever is here, this is sort of essentially the first impression. This is the reason why somebody would connect with you, why somebody would engage with you, etc. So every single bit that you're seeing in front of you here has to be optimized to the max. And typically people ask me, Frank, what should I start with? And a lot of people, so my profile is, very, very old. So if you're wondering how old it is, if I'm just going to open up this, it says my profile was created in July 2010. So it's a very, very old profile, guys. And the sort of followers, whatever connections I was growing over the years. So I wasn't using necessarily any particular sort of growth hacks, anything. It's just literally something that compounds over the years. So I created my profile during my university days, which is when I advise you to kind of start optimizing your profile. Then the first thing that matters when it comes to profile optimization is changing this weird sort of string in your URL. So URL has this URL string. So linkedin.com/in/ and then it gives you this sort of unique ID to your profile. That's the first thing that you want to change. So you want to just literally change to your first name and last name. This is typically the default thing you want to do. Some people make it very funny in terms of the URL that they choose for the LinkedIn profile. So they would, for example, write something like Doctor Outbound, for example, or they would write something like SaaS growth or something like that. So they would essentially have the URL that relates to what is it that they can help you with. So let's say if you doing lead generation as an agency, then you would write / lead gen, and that's it. So that's what some of the people do, because they believe that gives them some SEO juice. Essentially, people will be able to find you because of the URL. However, the URL doesn't matter when it comes to SEO, so that actually doesn't make an impact. However, when people are searching for you on Google, and if they would type in Frank Saunders, LinkedIn ranks very, very high. So you want to make sure you're helping yourself, just to rank normally. So you do everything to identify yourself. This is why you're doing this. So you have good visibility from a URL structure to what's in your profile, etc. Then once the URL is sorted, right? So you have a custom URL string that you have in place. The next thing that matters, and this is what people typically look at, is this thing at the top. And this is essentially, imagine if you should optimize this for your ideal customer, essentially, that you're trying to reach out. So when you do social selling on LinkedIn, whatever it is that you're doing, right? And whenever a person bumps into your profile, naturally, this profile, this is essentially an extension. This is like a landing page of your main site. So this has to do a ton of selling for you. So naturally, the banner is like very, very clear, and it's optimized for both mobile and LinkedIn. Sorry, but mobile and desktop. Apologies, because you have to take into account that there's a ton of traffic on mobile. So this has to look really good on a mobile device, but also on a desktop device. And some of the folks, that have the premium account, they would actually create a slideshow. I personally don't recommend creating the slideshow. There's no data to suggest that slideshows are better or not, even though LinkedIn claims to say that. I like to, just have a static piece of, banner that is, always the same, and that's available. But if you want to kind of have multiple, banners, kind of showing up, so cover images, feel free to do that. But I personally don't believe there's a lot of value in that. However, what you want to essentially explain, what is that you're offering, right? So, and there's multiple ways to do that. So there's also some of the people on LinkedIn that actually sell this space, right? So because, especially if you have a lot of profile views coming to your page, right? So your LinkedIn page, right? That all that can be monetized. But like generally think about what is it that you want to say? What is the value prop? What is the problems that you can solve? And how quickly you may be able to solve that, right? So let's say I deliver to you X, within Y time frame, by doing X, Y, Z, so whatever that is. So in my case, we help companies build pipeline, right? So we do that where sales teams and agents are combined together, right? And that's what we offer. I'm not saying that this is the best banner, right? So definitely it can be tested. But one of the things I highly recommend to do is having some sort of link or URL for people to kind of go to your site, right? So if you're curious here, because they may open up, a tab and then go directly to a site to explore further. Now, after this cover image, the next thing that really matters, by the way, guys, one of the things I highly recommend to do is pop all your questions in the comments section, and then I'll take all the questions at the end. So I'll kind of whiz through most of the important things, but one of the highest value kind of bits is for you to ask questions, so for me to answer them live together with everybody else. The next thing is really the headshot, right? So the headshot has to be naturally professional, because naturally I'm in tech, right? So I have a hoodie essentially in this particular example, and I do have the logo of our company, so that's Salesforce, right? And I use this exact image everywhere. So you should not use different images in different places. You should use always this exact same image on X, on LinkedIn, on your Google account. So we use Google. For me, it's actually I'm using a GIF even on a Google Workspace, where it sort of loops between my headshot and a company logo. Actually, I think LinkedIn used to have that, but it deprecated that feature. But it has to be professional. And one of the biggest things I definitely recommend is, when you do have a picture, is to have a good smile, essentially. So where you typically see teeth essentially coming out, right? So it's a big good smile. What's called typically an American smile. And the reason why you should smile in the picture is because people are just more likely to engage with you, essentially to connect with you, to accept your connection request, do business with you. They're actually more likely to engage with you if you are smiling in your headshot. So it's a psychological thing. You can think of other kind of platforms, like it doesn't matter whether we gonna drop now Instagram, so or Tinder or whatever other platforms. Essentially, when another person smiles, you are just more likely to explore them, discover them, whatever, read about them, etc., than having sort of a serious sort of face. So I highly, highly recommend, if you are kind of super serious or whatever on LinkedIn, unless you're some big guru like Mark Benioff, whatever, the CEO of Salesforce. Like, I highly recommend for you to always have a good smile in your headshot. Then the next section is naturally your first name and last name. So this part is very important, specifically for those folks that are not from the Western Hemisphere. So imagine you are from a part of the world where your names are very, very tricky or very, very hard to pronounce, or when you look at it, you're not really sure how to spell it out. And so you will have trouble essentially to connect with people in the Western Hemisphere. So if you do have a tricky name that you can't really pronounce, or you look at it, you're like, I'm not really sure how to pronounce the name, etc. And people will go to naturally YouTube or Google, essentially trying to figure out how to do that. You're creating sort of this sort of friction in communication. So I recommend that you have essentially a nickname. It's simply known in the Asian part of the world, essentially, to have nicknames, etc. But it ultimately, is the problem is, if I look at your name and a typical, even a native English speaker or just somebody from the Western Hemisphere just looks at your name, he has a trouble to pronounce your name. If you're in sales, or if you're a founder, or if your job is to engage with other people, I would change that, if I'm very honest. So I highly, highly recommend to do that. Then the other thing that I recommend to do is to have an emoji that you can see here at the end. Now, the emoji is very important. So think of it this way. So imagine if I were gonna go and meet you, let's say at the bar or whatever the event, or somewhere I'm gonna meet you, right? And I'm gonna introduce myself and I'm gonna say, I'm Frank. And I'm gonna explain to you why I'm using the bacon emoji, right? Because the saying comes from bringing home the bacon. And you may forget my name, right? You may forget what was my name, which company I'm from, etc. But you will remember that this guy, his name is Frank. So he had to do something with bacon, essentially, right? So humans have a much essentially better sort of brand recall, like a visual brand recall, rather than having a good recall on a piece of text. So even like a name or a surname, or even a company name, but they will have a better recall on an emoji. So this emoji has to do something with the space that you're in. I know that a friend of mine from Ireland, for example, he's a recruiter. So, and what he does with a lot of his customers is he plays golf with them. So what he decided to do is put golf in there, right? Because he connects with a lot of ideal customers that do play golf. So there's this sort of emoji that connects your ICP and yourself. So in my case, I'm connected to a lot of founders and salespeople, and their job is all about bringing home the bacon. So naturally, when I connect with them, they do like they do like emojis, but particularly if nobody else is using the emoji, right? And you're like the only person in your niche that does that. So I highly recommend that you figure out what is the emoji that you could use, because people will just have a better recall on you as an individual, rather than your name or your company, what it does, etc. So it definitely has helped a lot. And I also have a lot of people in my audience that purely connect with me that would just simply write something like, I love bacon. That's all they're going to say. So it can only have, I would say, definitely a benefit. There's definitely a lot of people that are, there's also people that are sort of vegetarians, or they have a specific religion, etc., where they don't necessarily endorse bacon. But I always say there has to be a component within your brand that helps you to connect with the majority of your audience, and you want to do that in particularly if nobody else is doing that, to help you to stand out. Because I'm always competing for attention, right? We are in attention economy. How can I drive more eyeballs to me and my business around my personal brand, which then amplifies my company brand? Think about it. Think about the things that you can do. Now, on the right-hand side, we have here Salesforce, nothing particular. Y Combinator, this is where we met my co-founders, so nothing in particular there. However, naturally, Y Combinator does give you a bit of credibility if you got to put that down. And I do have a LinkedIn Premium profile. Now, if you don't have a LinkedIn Premium profile, or if you do, and you want to get a very cheap LinkedIn profile below $200 a year, I do have a little growth hack on how to do that. I'm not going to share that here live. So your job will be to connect with me on LinkedIn and just write growth hack essentially to me. And I will share you the growth hack by the end of today. Now, let's move on. The next section that I want to cover is the headline. Headline is super important. It has to be quite, juicy, let's call it. So I don't believe that the headline has to be like super short. So I have a colleague of mine that I literally spoke sort of 30 minutes ago, and I told her, hey, listen, your headline is a bit too short, but you do so many great things. You're a vibe coder, you do X, Y, Z stuff, etc. Why don't you just sort of double down in terms of the length, in terms of in terms of the headline, so the person has a better understanding what you do in your life besides doing your core job at the Forge. Because a person builds a first impression, as I said, on what happens here. Right? This is 80% of the traffic. This is what matters the most. They're not gonna even scroll down to your experience section, right, to figure out what other things do you do in your life, which societies are you in, or what is it else that you do, right? So this matters a lot. So, but the first line, I'm a big believer. So let's say if I'm connecting to a lot of different individuals, on LinkedIn. When you go to your section where it says who viewed your profile, I want people to see, okay, so Frank Saunders with this headshot is viewing my profile, and then there will be the headshot, right? So very professional, whatever, smile, good smile, etc. But the thing that I want people to remember is what I can do for them, right? And the first thing that they're gonna see or read is I make you bring home more bacon, right? This is the first thing you're gonna see. And imagine you're in sales, you're a founder, you're like, oh yes, I definitely want to bring home more bacon, And there's essentially these sort of things in life, essentially, that you connect with another individual, whether you talk about bacon or whatever you talk about in life, but it's something that really connects with me culturally, with my audience, right? So, and then you want to say what your title is, right? So see us at the Forge. This title only really matters if you are a CEO or a founder. I typically find, or you're like a VP, I typically find that any other titles don't really give you a lot of benefit. Let's say whatever the title you have, but essentially only sort of VPs or CEOs of founders, like these titles matter in terms of kind of connecting, converting, kind of engaging, stuff like that. But any other title doesn't give you much of a benefit in terms of having that in the headline. I would rather explain what are the pains that you're solving, what are the problems you're solving, what is it that you can do for the individuals, right? And that's why they should connect with you, they should start a conversation, etc. So you can see here that in our headline we're saying, we offer unlimited LinkedIn and mailbox senders plus AI SDR, right? That's what we do as a business. It happens in the Forge. And then we're also saying, because we're hiring people all the time, by the way, we're hiring a lot of people. If somebody wants to apply ever, feel free to ping me on that. But we're also hiring, we typically say, to make it a bit more funny, and because we do hire a lot of AI agents or implement AI agents. The latest one actually that we're going to implement right now is having AI agents doing our demos on our website. That's the latest AI agent that we're looking to implement. And then the other AI agent that we're looking to implement and hire is what we call Agent CSM. So Agent CSM will look after our long tail of accounts. So we're always looking for best-in-class, off-the-shelf agentic solutions to optimize our business. But at the same time, we're also looking for A players in the business. And if you're a founder or if you're running a team, you know how hard it is to get A players in the business. This is typically, one of the biggest challenges that any startup or big company has. So you typically want to signal. You definitely want to signal if you're also hiring or you're helping your company to hire that your hiring is evergreen, right? So we're always hiring, even right now. By the way, if you want to apply, do send a quick video, 1 minute, to hey@salesforge.ai, and you could just say essentially, what is it that you're really good at, why you're applying for a particular role maybe, or what is it, what is the impact you can do to the business, right? So that's another kind of recommendation on how to hire people, is to simply have an open door policy for them to apply for any role. Cool. So that's a headline. If you have any particular questions to the headline, again, please pop them in the comments. I'll tackle those later. Next bit is the location. And guess what? The location matters a lot. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. Otherwise, we're going to go into this massive debate. but there's definitely data to suggest that if you're in what we call a global hub, or a country that is accepted in the Western Hemisphere, typically you're going to get a lot higher acceptance rate, reply rates, etc. So highly, highly recommend that you choose a location in the world. If you're not in let's say you're in the village, right, somewhere in London, UK or Germany, etc. I would rather put my location to one of the hubs like Berlin, Frankfurt, etc., like a well-known city. Or I wouldn't, put down that I live, I don't know, in a I don't know, in a village in the UK, for example, whatever. I would put down London. The thing is, if there's, we, because we operate, a lot of the LinkedIn activity. So we see when people connect and what are the acceptance rates and how it changes based on a location that you're in. We typically see that hubs deliver far higher acceptance rates and reply rates. So aligning yourself to a hub definitely can improve your overall performance pipeline, whatever it is that you're looking, investors and stuff like that. I also know a lot of the founders, let's say in Europe, they will change the location to San Francisco, right, to attract the investors locally. So you definitely, the way you think about location is you're looking to optimize for the opportunities in that location, job opportunities, investors, whatever, right? So if your business, a lot of your business is in the US and particularly in the Bay Area, the West Coast, you definitely want to play around with it. Is my recommendation with the location, and change your location to San Francisco, and you'll notice a difference for sure from perspective of seeing different types of ads, different type of opportunities, people reaching out to you. Because this component matters a lot. So I'm currently not in London, but it says that my location is in London. And guess what happens? I get a lot of invites to dinners and many other things, because my location is in London, right? So the other thing I highly recommend to do is to outline in your profile, which is something that you can do in the settings section. What is your email address? And one thing I would not do unless it's my, professional number. So my personal number is my professional number that you can reach out to me. So it's the same number. I never use any other number. You can then decide in the contact section whether you want to display your email address or your mobile number. And if you're in the world of kind of doing business and reaching out and you're totally happy for other people to reach out to you, then I would display the number. If you're not in that mindset, I will definitely hide that, right? So it depends on your kind of personal preference. Now, the other thing which matters a lot and drives a lot of pipeline for your business is if you have a LinkedIn Premium and you have then this, custom link that you can inject, I highly recommend that you do this. It generates a ton of leads. Up to 100 leads on a monthly basis are being generated from this beautiful single link for our business. So it does matter a lot, but it is something that you want to provide sort of value to your audience. So that could be as simple as making people sign up to your newsletter. If you click on this link, you will be able to generate a custom outbound strategy for your business. And this is something that we do for any business out there. You have to simply enter your email address, and within a few minutes, you'll get via email a custom strategy plan on how to build more pipeline, right? So so whatever is of value to your ideal customer, that's what you want to put there in the link. But definitely you want to do what's called, I'm a big believer in what's called email capture. You definitely want to capture the email, but you want to make it in a way where there's a reason why they should give up that email address, right? So that we can build a good structured plan for them, right? Rather than just simply asking for an email to get sort of, as part of a lead magnet or something, right? So get a piece of a resource. So just think about it, but I highly recommend to use this like really, really well, but it should not lead to like a demo. I would not recommend to lead to like a demo page or a home page, but to an asset where you can do email capture, but you are giving away the email to get something of sort of custom value to that particular individual. So if you want to, I highly recommend to check it out how this lead magnet works on our site, and you will figure out why people keep on giving away the email address to us. So this generates us over 100 leads on a monthly basis. Now, if you have a very fresh profile, below 500 connections, you definitely have to get to 500 plus connections. Highly recommend to do that. Essentially, if you have below 500 connections, you have, a fresh new profile, which is totally fine. But a lot of people will think about you as a bot. There are a lot of bots on LinkedIn. So your acceptance rate and reply rate will not be great if you will have below 500 connections. So you definitely want to get to 500 plus, and then beyond that, it kind of doesn't matter really. Sure, when you have more followers, you could say that people are more likely to kind of engage with you. But I can tell you that right now, the person. So we have 30 people actually in the team that we use to do a bunch of different outreach. 30 people. So we have a lot of data within our own team, and our top performer when it comes to replies on LinkedIn is not actually me. It's a support rep. A support rep that's also hooked up to our software that we're using the profile to engage. He has the highest reply rate. Why he has the highest reply rate, nobody knows. But don't assume essentially that the more followers you have, etc., the more likely you are definitely you're generating replies, etc. What his profile is as optimized as my profile. So he's done definitely quite a few things to optimize his profile. So profile. What I'm trying to say is, doesn't matter who you are in a company. Optimizing profile matters a lot, not just for the CEO, the founders. It's for everybody in the company where these profiles is naturally the extension of your company, right? So, all right. So this is 80%, right? So, please do ask me the most questions about this part, because this part is 80%. Nothing like what we're going to discuss now next is less than 20% in terms of true value. So the reason why people scroll down below is because they're doing, let's think about it this way. They're doing deep research about you as an individual. They typically are potentially either recruiters, or maybe trying to recruit you, trying to sell you something, etc. Right? So, but still, it's like very, very tiny amount of individuals that go down below. But I can tell you that people like let's say if you are looking for prospects, etc., they're not gonna do like a super deep research down below. These are people that are typically trying to either sell you something, or these are recruiters, etc. These people that typically dig deeper into your profile don't have a lot of value to you, essentially. So do optimize what I'm telling you here, and try to also, if you're wondering how else to improve this, try definitely to run sort of what I call an A/B test. So change your profile once a quarter, and so have a different headline. So I'm always changing this, right? My profile has been in existence for 15 years. I've changed this profile probably at least like 1,000 times. A lot of times. So I have a good feel of what works for me and what doesn't. And I highly recommend that you spice up your profile like once a quarter. That should be the cadence that you should kind of think about how to do this. So one of the things, for example, I'm not personally happy about is the image cover, right? So that I have here, the banner, right? So at the top, I'm not super happy about this. So I definitely have ideas how I'm going to spice things up. Somebody told me, I should use my sort of bathtub video that I did as well. Some people will know that, and I should put it here. But like something that definitely has to grab their attention a bit more here. But so I'm definitely not happy. So this is something that's going to change this quarter to try and improve further my conversion rates of people reaching out to me. I always say, anything that you do on LinkedIn is about what we call edutainment. So you have to learn how to not just educate your people on your profile, on making a post, etc., but also how to entertain at the same time. So this background cover is not entertaining at all. So this is what I'm going to be trying to change in Q1. Okay, excellent. So please do ask questions. Nothing matters here about profile use, etc. What does matter is beyond kind of giving you a good glimpse at the top level of who you are. Give me a good sort of, a little bio about who you are, what do you care about? What are the things maybe that you're strong at, right? And I'm saying, I'm just a dad of two, right? I'm trying to connect with people. There are other dads out there, moms, etc., right? But what sort of person are you? So you can read about, me a bit, but like what I really try and do is like give a better understanding who Frank is. So kind of rich context, who this person is, what are the things that he's sort of good at, or what sort of challenge he likes, what are the things he's into. I really like things like, the crushing the competition, etc., blah, blah, blah. And the other thing, I did a post a few days ago, I think it was 2 days ago, something, where I went to where I went to Gemini, and I made Google sort of, I made Google, to roast me essentially. So I highly recommend to have a look at that post and kind of get yourself roasted. But one of the things that I like to do when the person is actually reading through this, which will happen less than 1% of the time, guys, just to give you an idea. So it doesn't happen that frequently. But if somebody's really reading about it, they're interested in you. But one of the things I like to do is at the end is to, right, let's not bore you any further. Let's grab a virtual coffee. So I'm literally drinking a ton of coffees, like typical, really at least 5 coffees a day. So I drink a ton of coffees. because I'm in sales, I'm a founder, etc. And the reason why this bit is also a bit important, actually, this is what LLMs are looking at. So everybody's scraping this piece of information. And I do recommend for you to think about what would ChatGPT think about this piece of information? What would Gemini think about, etc.? Like, what do you want? How do you want to build your kind of profile? So this rich piece of this piece of text can be used in a multitude of different ways. But I typically look at it from the standpoint of, okay, what if somebody is going to scrape my LinkedIn profile? How will OpenAI look at my profile? How do I want to influence the GPT? How do I want to influence all these models, Claude, etc.? Maybe you want to, let's say you're optimizing for, you are the best growth agency on the planet for SaaS companies, right? B2B SaaS. So you want to talk a lot about this here, that you are the best growth, you operate the best growth agency on the planet. This is what you've done, etc. And you're feeding a ton of context about it. So think about, writing an SEO blog essentially. And so the goal here would be to whenever somebody's searching, give me on ChatGPT, give me please the best growth agencies on the planet, or the best software for this, etc. Guess what? Then GPT and all these models, they will take this as an input to potentially recommend on ChatGPT to them. So I highly recommend to always, whatever you do also on your profile, how would this be influenced in ChatGPT? Because ChatGPT will recommend your profile to that particular individual or company. Okay. Next one is services. Going to skip that, not very important. I think what is important is the features section. So what do you want people to, when they go on your profile, what does Frank talk about, right? And you want to build credibility, and in one way or the other. So some people like to put a lot of the videos of themselves, how do they talk about a particular problem, how do they solve particular problems, what customers they have, etc. Right? So there's a lot of videos. Some people do that. I'm not doing that. I'm simply featuring some of the posts that had a lot of engagement on those posts, or the posts that I like. Not all of them have a lot of engagement, but there's a lot of kind of different flavors of posts, and kind of gives again a bit of an understanding what are some of the things that Frank posts about. And one of the things I'm trying to do is, some of these posts have like hundreds of reactions, right? Hundreds of comments, etc. So that also, apart from Frank having a lot of followers, Frank also knows how to drive engagement, and so that means Frank is a somebody in the space. Right, so that's something that you want to also do, especially if you don't have that many followers, right? But you have some of the posts that went really, really viral. You want to have this sort of feature section. This can only bring benefit to you personally, to your business, etc. So I highly recommend to feature something on there. If you're not sure what, just go through to all your posts, and the top posts that had a lot of kind of impressions. These are typically the posts that probably the audience found the most value in. But it has to be definitely something that is, as I said, edutaining. So the question becomes, in these posts, are you educating people, and are you entertaining at the same time? If the answer is yes, these are the best posts, right? So a lot of these posts are designed for entertainment, essentially, but also educating at the same time. This, for example, here on the left-hand side, has nothing to do with entertainment, but it educates the people a lot, right? So yeah, these are my kind of latest posts that you can see, but the post that I mentioned in particular is this one here, right? So where you can get Gemini sort of to roast you, right? So I highly recommend to do that. It's done through Nana Banana. So, okay. Next one is the experience section. So of course you have to outline the experiences that may benefit you, right? And there are sometimes experiences that you may not want to have on LinkedIn. Then I naturally recommend for you to delete that. I'm not going to talk about which experiences you may delete, etc. But there are some people that do delete experiences that may have a negative impact on their career, on their ability to acquire customers, etc. But typically, you outline everything that you have. You definitely want to write a description of what you do in that job, because again, we're trying to feed LLMs. We're trying to have a kind of bit of an understanding of what you do. One recommendation, which most people don't do, is to attach essentially additional sort of assets next to every single thing that you're doing. So if you're working at this company called Salesforce, or whatever, it's particular in our case, a product, we have another product, then you want to attach, for example, a quick video or a tutorial or an article, whatever. Essentially, don't make it very, how shall I say, very sort of blunt in terms of there's just text. A lot of people consume information visually as well, so they need to see this without actually going to your site. They need to be sold here right on LinkedIn, how it could help them, right? Think about this, how you think about what you could do. So in my case, whenever a person will go to the Salesforce profile, if they're really curious, they would just click on this video and they would actually just watch the video for a bit, right? So only one thing I want to cover here is how, like, let's say, imagine you finished the job, you finished a particular thing, is how to outline everything that you've done for a company. So let's say here. So here was SVP sales for a company called Watergraph, aka was client partnerships, but I was essentially doing sales. And one of the things you want to tell to your future employer or future customer, etc., is what are your key achievements in that particular job that you've done, right? So key achievements are super, super important. And typically you want to have like 3 to 6, roughly, I would say, in every single thing. Here I'm also telling what is the revenue stack that I've used in that particular company. And then you can see I have a bunch of different examples in terms of, additional sort of assets or sources that talks about me and my team, right? Because we were named as one of the best sales teams in Europe in 2022, back then by G2, and also same thing by Vidyard as well, top sales team, virtual sales team at 2021. So you want to talk about and provide essentially more reasons for your next employer, customer, etc., to kind of sort of trust you essentially, because because some people will literally go here and dig. Like, there are people that do that, less than 1%, but they will still do that. But it's something that you want to kind of continue doing that. And then another example here, I worked back in my days at Google, kind of very similar, kind of key responsibilities and achievements that you had in that particular place. And I would typically say don't share any internal data that you may get a legal letter for. You definitely want to just say what is the percentage improvement, quarter over quarter, month over month, etc. And then again, provide a bunch of different sort of assets here, right? So there's a bunch of different things. I'm going to go back, and that's all I want to say really about experience section. And then the other sections that naturally matter is education and licenses. Most people don't really care about the educational section, sort of where did you study, etc. It doesn't actually. This from kind of from employability standpoint, being employed at the next gig, etc. Like less people kind of look at education. More people really look at the certifications that you've done. So did you get yourself certified through HubSpot Academy, Salesforce, whatever, product-led growth? There's also one of my favorite ones was called CXL. In CXL, you can get certified on how to do conversion rate optimization, etc. So definitely think about how can you get yourself certified in that, with skills that will be actually valuable in that job, rather than getting some form of a degree where they will preach you about stuff from sort of 5 years ago. And actually all that stuff is more or less sort of, a lot of that is outdated, right? So the economy is moving really, really fast. So whatever you're learning at college or university isn't that really applicable to what's happening right now today with ChatGPT and everything. The most valuable stuff that is applicable, you'd rather just get a job, right, and get like real skills, and B, get certified yourself in particular, areas to build a competence around how to write a really good cold email, how to do LinkedIn outreach. This stuff actually matters because actually it provides value to your business. All right. The other thing is kind of looking at projects that you've done. You can outline that. Not too important. Volunteering, you can outline that. Not too important. Skills. Some people really like the skills bit, but I can tell you it makes no difference really. But if you really are keen into skills, just put skills that you want to be known for. So a lot of people will put like random stuff into here, but just outline 2 skills only. The reason why it's 2 skills, not more than that, is because only 2 skills are being displayed, and that's it. No other skills are being displayed. So only the top 2 skills that you want to be known for the next 10 years. That's really what it is. And really these 2 things should matter to you over the course of your lifetime, right? So, all right. The final thing that I want to, there's 2 more things. So a couple of things here. So first one is recommendations. Recommendations matters a lot. It's social proof. In every employment or any gig that you're doing, whatever you're doing in your life, in every chapter of your life, you should think to yourself to whom you can give a recommendation and vice versa, who could give you a recommendation. So there's typically three stakeholders that you're kind of thinking of who could give you a recommendation. So A, that's typically your boss, right? These are typically the person that comes to mind who's going to give you a recommendation. Two is somebody in the team that you work very closely with, right? That's two. And three is a customer that you have worked with. These are typically the three stakeholders. So A, internally, one above, then two is somebody in your team, so same level, and three is somebody externally that works for you, right? So again, that is your customer, right? A person that you're working externally, you're not in the same business, you don't get paid by them, nothing like that. And when it makes sense to ask a recommendation, is only after you've been engaged with that individual for at least 6 months. If you're asking for a recommendation like immediately in months 2, 3, it's not really credible. The first thing that comes to mind is how long did you know that person? So you have to know somebody for a period of time, and I would say it's at least 6 months before you have the balls kind of to really go out there and ask for that recommendation, right? And there's nothing wrong with asking recommendation. And every single moment, let's say you are already in employment, asking already for recommendation after 6 months, or you have finished that employment and that chapter of your life, and then after that you're asking for a recommendation. I recommend you to do that rather than asking for a recommendation after 5 years down the road. Don't do that. So it's something that you have to do always, every single year. So you can see my last one was in 2024, which is for what I do is pretty recent, I would say. So yeah, but I haven't done one last year, so I was a naughty boy, I guess. So then you can have some publications essentially. So this is my dissertation, courses. So these kind of things doesn't matter a lot. Doesn't matter a lot. Honors in the words doesn't matter too much. I would say which languages you speak. Some people are really curious which languages you do speak. But again, matters very little because we're going down so low that it just doesn't matter much. I think what people, one thing I only want to mention is the interest. So people that you're actually following, the top voices out there in the world. This matters a lot. So I'll give you an example. Imagine you are following Donald Trump. Imagine Donald Trump was on LinkedIn. And so some people like Donald Trump and some people don't like Donald Trump, right? And if somebody will scroll down to the bottom and they will see that you follow Donald Trump, they will not like you. There are some people out there. So, don't follow people that are very, very, very controversial out there in the world. It actually may have a negative impact on your ability to connect with people. So just connect with individuals that are naturally thought leaders in the space, right? Maybe if you're in tech, you follow, people that are okay to follow, for example, Elon Musk, I would say. Yes, he's a bit controversial, but not like super controversial as somebody like Donald Trump, for example, right? So I don't think you will get penalized for following like somebody like Elon Musk, but definitely for people that are very controversial, I would not recommend personally to do that. So that's all I have for you. Let's dive right into the questions. So if anybody had any questions, let's go over it. So let's see. Let's say what we got in here. Somebody is asking me, what's the main reason why I'm not verified? So so a lot of people don't get their profiles verified on LinkedIn, even though you have a lot of connections, you've been around LinkedIn for a long time, and that's because you don't want to give up your ID to the big corp. Like, it's a social platform. It's not something that, for example, I do on Meta, so Facebook or other platforms, right? So I would not personally do that. It's kind of your personal choice. Now, with everything that's happening with sort of, let's call it, bot behavior on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and you don't have that many connections, I would probably get verified to kind of increase your sort of authority on LinkedIn and kind of, authority on LinkedIn that you are actually a legit human. But unless there is a reason to do that, I wouldn't. However, our data does suggest when it comes to doing outreach that if you are verified, your performance does go up. So we do see definitely evidence and data that verified profiles do have better performance when it comes to connecting, doing business, etc. So yeah, but naturally, this is something that's sort of debated a fair bit. So yeah. Awesome. Then Oh, nice. You changed my profile image, and I was wondering if it's a good or bad thing to change it. I mean, you have a great profile image, Michaela. So definitely good job there. And that's it. So I don't think we had that many questions, which is pretty totally fine. If, as I said, so a couple of things, sort of, well, one thing. So the only thing I think that may be useful to you guys, if you have got any questions, feel free to ping me. If you want to get the growth hack about how to get LinkedIn Premium significantly more cost effectively than just going by direct, you know what to do. So I already mentioned that. So feel free to ping me on that, and I'll share with you. And otherwise, thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for all the questions. There's a final question. Let's do that from Maras. Let's see what question we have from Maras. Would you recommend to continue my fundraising services for startups from a personal account, or should I create a LinkedIn page, sort of my fundraising consultancy page? No, I would do it from a personal account. So there's a saying that goes on in just generally world of business or LinkedIn is that people buy from people. So you should never reach out, for example, from a generic email address or from a company page, etc., because you're dehumanizing, right? So you definitely want to reach out as, hey, this is Mattis. By the way, again, we touched on this topic, right? On making sort of names more Western, and I would call you Matt, for example, right? But this is one tip I could only give you. But no, I would not do a fundraising consultancy page for it. But I think one of the things which is a problem maybe in your case, so like you want to be hooked up to a particular LinkedIn profile that definitely can give you credibility on that front. Because if you're not hooked up to any LinkedIn profile, yes, it is a bit odd. So if you don't have any page whatsoever, I would create for sure. So I assumed in the beginning that you did have a page, but if you don't have a page, do create one and then hook yourself up to that page. And then what I recommend that you do, Matas, is to invite, I think you can invite up to 250 followers to your page. So that's something that you can do. So figure out your audience in the US or whatever that is. And you can invite up to 250 people to your page. All right, last one. Do you have some more things to keep in mind on the headline since it shows up in comments? Good question. I mean, a headline or the first piece is what matters the most. The first piece, the first sort of sentence is what matters the most. So what will make people trigger to, they have we're fighting for attention, right? So imagine there's a lot of people commenting on LinkedIn posts or a lot of people doing whatever, bunch of stuff. But then you look in the headline and you're reading the first piece of text and it has to catch your attention, and you have to become sort of curious and wanting to click on that profile, and then things happen, right? What is the first thing that you can say in the headline that will make people want to click on your profile? It doesn't have to be clickbait, by the way. It's like, how can we spark curiosity from your ideal customer that you're looking to reach out to LinkedIn, whoever that is? What is the one thing that you can say? They're like, oh, this is different. This is odd, right? Just don't try to do what everybody else does. You have to have your kind of own thing. So for me, it's like I help you bring home more bacon, and it's just the thing that Frank does, But guess what? Nobody's gonna do that, and I didn't copy from anybody else either. So what is the one thing that you can say that a person's like, oh yes, I would want to connect with you, Quentin, about this? And there's just one sentence. Less is more. Think about it that way. So yeah. All right. I don't see any other questions, guys, coming through, which is totally fine. As I said, if you are shy, whatever, to talk about your profile, totally fine. If you got any questions, feel free to pop them right into my DMs, and we can continue the conversation. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year. Cheerio.